collectively, the economy, the resource, the water, everything. And we all know what that can do to our economy. It's in Lake Mead, it's in Lake Tahoe, it's down there, and they're having a heck of a time. And that's the boats that we're seeing come through. And so our staff, we hire tribal members, non-members, whoever we can get to work, essentially. And it's not an easy job. And
So, Rick, are you finding people that are intentionally trying to get around the check station? Like they suspect their boat's got them or anything, or is
So
it just?
most of the drive-bys that we see are boaters that are assuming that they don't have to stop at every inspection every time, even though it says, and we tell them every boat, every time you must stop at a watercraft inspection when you see it. They just assume since they stopped at multiple ones that they don't need to. But we hardly ever see anybody that are intentionally driving around to not get inspected or have their boat inspected. This year, I've actually got a lot more calls I have in the past from people traveling here from California, Washington, Oregon, wondering about our requirements and how they can get their boat inspected prior to launching. So the word's getting out to other states about us, our program.
I think a few years ago, I read just, some kind of study on what the mussels would do to our property tax base. And it was,
not good.
yeah, it was a very, very large number. I might mention, we also have in the room, Mr. James Raymond. He's our civil attorney and author of the lease agreement, the draft one. And Billy Lee snuck in, and I guess she's just,
I'm an observer.
interested, observer from the public.
I also believe our legal staff looked at the agreement. Is that true?
Yep, and we have Chelsea Colwyn on the Teams meeting there. Chelsea.
She's our attorney that works on these.
Welcome.
Hi, nice to meet you all. Virtually, anyways.
We do have a brief presentation that we'd like to show, just kind of our run of the mill, what we show people. It's been given to the, what do they call those?
The
When we went to
luncheon
night
at
nights.
The luncheon at Ronan, yeah.
Ronan Chamber.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
I think we did. I've talked to Folsom Chamber many times. You guys probably have as well.
I don't know if we talked to Colson, but,
Yeah.
just a presentation kind of about the basis of what we do, and if there's questions along the way, feel free to ask them, and then the plan kind of for the site, so that we can chat about that.
Here, I'll give you this so you can follow through as you need.
All right, so yeah, this is our program and some of our inspectors for Appreciation Week, which is happening this week from the 4th to the 10th. So this is the 4th annual one that the state of Montana, well, not the state of Montana, because it's through Western Columbia County Commissioners, the Columbia Commission. Those people, they're doing an Appreciation Week. It used to be UC3, but now they're sponsoring it. So we like to highlight all the inspectors across the whole state for all the hard work and dedication that they've been pouring out into the hot summer heat. So a little of what we do education outreach with the local schools. I do the mussel walk with 7th graders, and then the lake honoring with high schoolers, and then river honoring. And then I'd operate 2 watercraft inspection stations, agreement with FWP, Inter Valley and Thompson Falls, and help with early detection and monitoring with the Flathead Lake Biological Station and Fish Wildlife Parks. So a little background history about zebra and quagga mussels. So they're native to the Black and Caspian Sea. And it was thought that they were introduced in the early 1980s. And it wasn't until later in the 80s that they actually detected them. And so if you can see in the top right, that's an 89. And then the latest photo is 2022. And you can see all how the zebra and quagga mussels have traveled across the country through boaters and just going down the rivers and stuff like that. And so one thing about zebra and quagga mussels is they attach with byssal threads. So that's what makes them very unique. And the closest infestations is in Pactola Reservoir, which is South Dakota, and it's 88 miles to the state border. And then Twin Falls, which was detected last fall, and they did a lot of work to try and eradicate them. They've had published anything yet on any findings, but they did find an adult attached to a rock, so there was an adult. And normally, if there's an adult, they've been there for a while.
Now, you don't see many of the blue where they have both.
Yeah, so normally where zebra and quagga mussels are, if there's quagga and they normally don't are in the same system. One normally out competes the other and takes over the body of water. And then, of course, our two detections that we did have in the state of Montana, Canyon Ferry and Tiber, after 5 years of sampling, it was delisted because they didn't find any detections or suspicions of zebra and quagga mussels. No, it's not.
The arrow won't work.
There we
Oh,
go.
there we
No.
go.
So some impacts of zebra and quagga mussels, as you can see, the middle photo is a pipe, so you can see how they completely take over and there's no way for water to come through. They do also settle on native species, so this is a mussel, another mussel that they settled on. And then the top right photo is a picture of a shoreline of what our shores could look like if they ever got here. And then after they come here and they get established in areas, they stir up a lot of phosphorus, and so they create algae blooms, which is very toxic for humans and of course fish and other wildlife that are utilizing the water as well. And so the AIS dashboard that Montana Fish Wildlife Parks do, they normally update it every week and a half because it's a lot of data they have to go through. So as of this past weekend, there's 31 mussel fowl boats that have come through the state of Montana. And I went to this one meeting a couple months ago, and this guy, he was saying that Flathead Lake is a top 3 destination of people coming from positive mussel bodies of water, and their destination is Flathead Lake throughout the whole United States. So that's crazy. And so this is inspections by stations. As you can see, Ravalli is the second most stopped at station in the state. Clearwater, they see both traffics, and we only see traffic heading north up to this lake. And then Thompson Falls is right there as well. And Thompson Falls is mostly just local boat traffic and some people coming through Idaho and Washington. But the main concern for that station is keeping Eurasian water milfoil in check. So our Valley Watercraft Inspection Station, that's what WIS stands for. We operate March to October. And during our peak seasons from Memorial to Labor Day weekend, we do 24/7 operations. Last year, we saw 14,000 inspections. And so far this year to date, we've seen 10,000 inspections. Memorial Day weekend, as you can see, is our kickoff, and 367 boats. A lot of those boaters are going to the to Big Fork, to the Whitewater Fest. And then 4th of July, as you can see, we see a lot of boats in a weekend from out of staters coming to recreate on our lake.
That number surprises me. I wouldn't think it'd be that high. That's
Yeah, I think last year was about almost 2,000.
really,
So, yeah. And so this is a cool little map that FWP did. It's a spider map, so you can see where boaters are coming from through destination to Flathead Lake. So, you know, Alaska, Hawaii, Florida, they're coming from all over the country.
Can I say one thing really quick? The inspectors have an iPad that has an app on it that collects all the demographic data from everybody coming through with their boat. So then the state just takes all that information from those iPads and then can propagate where everybody said they're coming from, all those, where their destination is, all that information is just taken by iPad at all the stations.
I bet this is a stupid question, but I wonder how you get a boat here from Hawaii.
Yep,
Floating.
right?
Yeah, that could be, it's probably sales, like some of those are people selling their boats.
For the harbor,
And
yeah.
freight.
Yeah. Yeah, so the state of Montana, for some reason, Idaho does not use the same application as we do, but Wyoming does, Washington does, Oregon does. So a lot of the states nearby us use the same data application. So when they do inspect a boat from their state, we can see that same information. And so our Thompson Falls one, we operate normally from April to September, but since last year with the detection in Idaho, we decided to extend it another month to make sure that none of those zebra and quagga mussels are making their way over the state line for that last month when the waters are still a little bit warmer possibly. So as you can see, we don't really inspect that many boats. Thompson Falls sees about, you know, I mean, Ravalli sees about half of the boats that they do on 4th of July weekend than they do all season. So it's a slower one there.
but it's still an important location.
But it's still important, yep, for the Eurasian water milfoil. And here's a spider map of still people just coming from all over as well through Thompson Falls. Nice visuals. So Eurasian water milfoil. I added 2 other AIS species that are of concern right now on the reservation at this time. So 2022, Fish Wildlife Park sampled a lot of our reservation waters for us because they had the capacity to, and they found this fragment of Eurasian water milfoil. And they weren't sure because there's a native milfoil that looks pretty close to it, so they sent it into the lab and DNA came back as Eurasian water milfoil, which is a very invasive plant. So that fragment right there can propagate and make a whole new colony and take over the whole, all the native vegetation. And so last year we surveyed surrounding reservoirs and the canals, and so far we only found it in Pablo Reservoir, which is good. So we're not sure exactly how long it's been there because Pablo is pretty infested with it. Flathead Lake Irrigation, they were able to lower the waters for us to do a survey to look at the banks and stuff, and it's been there for a while. So
How would it have got there, do you think?
we're not sure.
Just
It could have been,
Isolated location like that,
yeah, it could have been prior before when boats were allowed on to be on there a while ago.
so long time.
So a long time ago.
Long time ago.
Yeah. I mean, it's very rare, but even, a bird, if it has it on their, on them, they could also bring it depending. Or someone using waders or,
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't done away with felt salt layers.
right? Yeah. So yeah, they do not survive in drought, so, we're working on a plan right now to try to eradicate Eurasian water milfoil from Pablo, so we don't have it trying to get other places, but threats is also irrigation, recreation, water quality.
And really quick, Pablo Reservoir is overseen by Fish and Wildlife Service. It's on tribal land, and then the irrigation project has a connection. And Army Corps is getting involved and trying to help us get funding to work with their eradication.
Mhm.
So it's a big multi-agency effort trying to stop this.
And then another one is the Chinese mystery snail. So in 2022, they were, Fish Wildlife Parks was doing their normal AIS survey. And this guy happened to be drinking a cup of coffee and he looked down and he found a shell. And he only found 1 shell that year. Last year they went back, they couldn't find any of these Chinese mystery snails. And then this past April, they went back and surveyed and they did find some live ones, which is in that top right photo. And yeah, that photo is what they look like when they're live, and they birth live babies as well, so they stay in the shell. And we're not sure if someone dumped their aquarium there at Finley Point State Park, or if someone decided to have some escargot and had some leftover ones, which is, people like to eat it if they just let it out or what, we're not sure exactly. But impacts as well as irrigation, and they can transmit diseases to fish and wildlife. So next week I'm going back out with FWP to see if they can find any. A couple weeks ago, a guy from FWP scuba nearby there, and he searched the whole shoreline and in the water, and he could not find any. So we're not sure if they got burrowed into the sediment. So we'll see what happens.
Where are they native to?
They are, oh man, I forget where they're native to. They're not native around here.
Such Chinese.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think probably over there. I know over in Idaho, some of their lakes, they have a lot of these there, and they have people go there, families, and pick them. If they get like 20 of them, they get an ice cream or something like that, is one of the state parks is doing to help keep them in check, but yeah.
Valve all inside of it, the base.
Right?
Right. So I'm like, maybe if we keep getting these here at Finley Point State Park, might have to start doing something like that. Having the public help physically remove them, and that's the only way to get rid of them.
And didn't we have another scare for an aquarium species 2 years ago? It was some kind of ball, like some algae or something?
Yeah, so this moss balls. So I think it was 3 years ago, it was right when I became the AIS coordinator. Moss balls were being shipped in from the Black Sea and Caspian Sea for aquarium use. And when they were being harvested, there were live zebra and quagga mussels actually attached to the moss balls. And so those got shipped in, and it was a huge statewide effort to get those removed from off of the shelves of plant stores. And even here in Montana, they were here, and FWP went and removed a lot of those. So that was a backdoor that zebra and quagga mussels could have got introduced. So that's part of the Western Region panel meeting that board that I'm with. they work on regulating things like that.
People don't have a clue when they do things like dump their aquariums and stuff like that. They-
Mm-mm. Nope, up in Canada, they have a huge goldfish problem because people dump their goldfish and they're getting big. Yep, goldfish. They get huge.
Oh, yeah. it's
Yeah.
Pictures. and
Like,
stuff.
Yeah, they turn into, yeah, huge monsters. And so back to what we're here for. So this is where the Ravalli Check Station's at, and we were looking at to get some funding. And as we were digging deeper, we found out that we were on Lake County land and we do not have a lease agreement in place. With MDT, they have an agreement with Fish Wildlife Parks, written in the statute that MDT will work with, the state of Montana best of their abilities for AIS purposes. And so most of all the watercraft inspection stations throughout the state are located on MDT land. So we got some funding to get the water well rejuvenated. So currently we just pull water from the building at MDT to fill our decon unit up. So we do not have any running water there. So it's nice of them to let us use their water. And then we have a portable bathroom there. Luke in the greenhouse, the pastor of the church, he actually lets us use his house water to fill up our bathroom, which is also very nice of him. So it'll be nice to have running water. And we currently have a on-demand unit that the state purchased for us. So we're just waiting on the wells, so that'll be nice. So we'll have consistent hot water temperatures because that is the only way to kill zebra and quagga mussels. Because currently the unit that we have right now fluctuates. So once when it gets to the temperature that we need, which is 140, 120 degrees, the burner will kick down, and so it'll be a lot more efficient.
So heat kills them?
Yep, hot water, so, yep, we don't use any chemicals, just 140 degrees on the hard parts and then 120 on the sensitive parts, such as the motor and stuff like that, so we don't break anything.
That's great.
Yeah,
As long as you have hot water there.
yeah, as long as you have consistent hot water, yes.
And that little building, the little rectangle at the top by the words MDT parcel is that decontamination building that we currently have. And then that well, we're gonna work with, I think, Red Horn Drilling to try to come out there and rejuvenate the well where the star is.
How do you dispose of them when you do find them?
So they'll just fall onto the ground once they get their dead shells, and then they'll dry out. And then we haven't really seen a lot of them to be worried about having a huge mass of the zebra shells just sitting down there, because they are pretty sharp.
And they do die once they just dry out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then of course with the hot water. But
So Whisper, did you say that white top building at the right at the top is your decontamination?
Yep, so we decontaminate boats that are coming out of state, so it is a requirement for them. And then also, if for some reason they didn't stop at other inspection stations prior to launching within the Flathead Basin, if it's a ballast boat, they must be decontaminated. So it's just hot water. So up here, we can do inspections if people call in, but if it's a high-risk boat, which I'll do a little survey with them on the phone, and if it's high risk, they must go down to Ravalli. There's no way for them to get decontaminated up here at this time. So right now, I guess, was it, I don't know, in 2018 is when maybe they got that Connex building, 2019?
Maybe.
No one was there to receive the shipping unit, so when it got dropped off, the company just dropped it off, is what we're assuming. And so that's why it is where it's located on Lake County, and it's also just sitting right there on the ground, so it's been sinking, so our door jambs aren't matching up. So that's one of the things that we'd like to do, if we can get a long-term lease agreement, is lift the Connex building up to get some cement support underneath it to keep it level. And to build a roof on it, because we have a lot of IT stuff in there. I think Bison Range runs off of some of our internet that we have, so we have a big server in there, and sometimes when it gets too hot, it kicks off. And so if the shade would help provide with the inspectors a little more space, because our little garage ports that we get, there's a lot of wind that rips through there. And last year, one of ours almost flew into the highway. Thank goodness there's this big bush that caught it before it went in there, and we had it staked down and tied down and all the stuff that you can think of, but the wind just rips through there. And we've had chairs go into our fire pit before. Storms kick up.
So you're anticipating these stations are gonna go on for years?
Yep,
Ever.
yeah. The state, yeah, we don't see them going anywhere, being where they are for for a long, long time.
We had, let's tell them about Congressman Ryan Zinke.
Yes,
It's out there.
yeah. So we put in appropriation funds to build a permanent watercraft inspection station, which is right here. And so
Oh,
we're
okay.
looking at, purchasing the MDT lot or finding a way to have site control of it, so then we can build permanent infrastructure. And that's the blue areas where we're looking at to put the building at. And then, where it L's out is where we'd store some stuff as well. But we'd still like to have a lease agreement with you guys so we can build like a shade, if we do get that land, build a shade area for the inspectors to be closer to the highway and not in the parking lot where it's unsafe, where boaters are coming in and out of.
I think one of the challenges is traffic control. We have the one entrance and exit at what is maybe Buffalo Street, which is the street that comes between the two MDT parcels. So we put that little arrow because they own the parking lot and then they own their big station down there. They do their maintenance work and keep their gravel and whatever other elements they need for road work. And we've got the benefit of being in Ravalli is the traffic level is already 45 miles an hour. Because we've looked at other locations. Do we have tribal land already that we own that we could just build the station on? But in order to capture the traffic that's coming up Highway 93 and coming into Highway 200, or potentially veering off 200 and going around and avoiding the stations, we really thought the Ravalli was a good spot for traffic control and the calming effect of the speed limit. We also looked at Ravalli Hill potentially, but again, you've got slow trailers pulling out when people are trying to go 80 miles an hour and pass everybody. So it really just felt like not the safest spot to put that other than here. We're also trying to conceptualize and think about other ways to move traffic through this facility so that it's the easiest and most effective. I don't know how much, if at all, at this point, but that's a lot of traffic on 4th of July. And if the highway gets backed up with traffic, I don't know if there's a way around on that other street. I know the guy Luke lives there and such, but that's something we're also like looking at. What's the best way to move traffic through here for everybody's safety and to be efficient, because people get mad. This is a very sensitive place. They don't like you touching their boat. They don't want to even stop because you're inconveniencing them, but really, this is our watershed. That's our lake. We need to make sure that
For sure.
their muscles don't get in
Mhm.
here. And the responsibility is really on them, and we're holding them to that. So,
And some of them probably don't even really care, because we're just coming up for the weekend. We're gonna go home. We don't care what kind of a
Yeah,
problem.
we already have it at home, so we're only here for the weekend, so it's a big deal.
We have some unruly customers, I'll call them.
Mhm.
And we deal with them in customer service manner.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're gonna get those people wherever you go.
Yeah, and it definitely helps that we have tribal game wardens there, ones at least assigned to the station every day, either sitting there or nearby in the area. So their presence do help a lot too. If some of the voters that come through and they're not too happy, they see law enforcement, then they kind of cool their jets a lot more.
and so
Never had one happy client.
And some people like to travel at night. So being able to have that 24-hour operation in Ravalli is beneficial. Don't really have the lighting right now to accommodate that. So that's sort of our long-term planning as well. We have a light, we have treble lights, but it'd just be safer for everybody if there was more lighting. And one thing we didn't chat about was some of the northern lake checkpoints. Right now, Fish, Wildlife and Parks office is the only AIS check station to the north of us, but people coming off the High Line also stop in Browning. So the mussel-fowl boat, did you say last year or the year
End
before?
of last year.
There was a sailboat coming in to Flathead Lake and they caught it at Fish, Wildlife and Parks in Kalispell. That was a gentleman traveling only at night, missing the stations, and then called ahead before he launched, luckily.
So, what hours does Browning operate theirs?
Ooh, I am not sure what their hours are. They have a weird setup. I went to Glacier a couple weeks ago and they inspect boats on one side of the highway and their decontamination is on the other side of the highway. So,
So you have to cross the road.
yeah, it's very, not safe at all. But I do know, it sounds like Browning, they're doing a lot better this year than they have in the past. So that is nice to hear that they're getting people to show up to work because they've had it closed a lot of the time.
And that's the difficulty, I think, that Katie and the rest of the statewide AIS program are seeing, according to Tom Wolf, is finding competent, efficient workers that actually want to come to work. You know, and that will stay at work.
So is there like a statewide pay scale, or it's each entity paid what they want, or?
Yeah, so the state has their FWP, they have their scale, and then partnerships, which is us, and then a lot of the check stations are actually partnerships within the state, which helps alleviate a lot of the pressure for them to find locals to work there. They have, weed districts in Missoula, their weed/AIS district runs at Clearwater Junction. Eureka, is conservation district, so a lot of them are conservation districts, so they pay. So the FWP, the state of Montana allots us money, and then we see how much we can be able to pay our inspectors.
We pay our night inspectors a little bit more than our daytime inspectors.
And then our Valley Inspection Station and even Thompson Falls, I see a lot of people coming back year after year, so they're pretty competent and they really know what they're doing with inspecting boats. So I feel pretty safe and confident, and I'm able to sleep easier at night knowing that they're there and they know what they're doing if there's a boat that comes through. Versus, someone that just started that season, 2 of them, and they're still, not sure what they're doing, which is how it seems like most of the state is currently.
Well, I gotta tell you, that's a great little presentation you put together. You learn some stuff just watching it.
Thanks.
So Rich, do you know if there's ever been any talk about trading maybe of some parcels?
Within the tribe
Yeah,
and tribal lands.
I
I
mean,
definitely think that could be a opportunity for us to look into.
I mean, I'm certainly not opposed to a long-term lease or anything.
Mhm.
The road, I think, if there's a lease, we should include the road in the lease rather than having a approach permit or whatever. I don't know whether there's parcels where we could work a trade, or I just don't know. It's probably kind of late to bring that up.
I think you can look at that after, and begin those discussions. I'm not the one to do that. That would be our lands department, marketure. But what I do see with this is just the spirit of cooperation between our 2 governments, and to showcase this, that we are protecting the environment in which we all enjoy, which is Flathead Lake and our water bodies, and how important that is to all of us.
Joint press release.
Yeah.
You're thinking, Rich.
Yeah, I mean, anything to show some positivity.
Sure.
Is the way to go. And so not worried about the naysayers out there. I mean, I want to see some positive press.
So now with Zinke, is this something he's putting in for, or has it been approved already, or?
So
That's kind of
it's,
known at this point.
so he stopped at the check station last month. And he was like, congratulations, you got the funding, but we haven't heard an official word from the state yet, because it was appropriation funds.
We were just like, what?
Yeah, so we're like, what is going on?
See, after
Like,
election.
yeah.
It's like this check here, we got that, we put in for it a year and a half ago, and it got approved, but then it had to go through the official Congress to get in the budget. That finally got done, but now it'll be October when we get the money. So
Mhm.
it's like a 2-year
Checks in the
process.
mail.
Yeah.
Checks, right.
Well, he usually knows before we do.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like.
Well, he did on this, yeah. His guy called us up just about a year ago, probably 9 months ago. No, good, congratulations, you got the money, da, 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 da.
So the issue with the church property, where are we with that? I mean, do we at some point need to get that sorted
You
out?
see me looking at the gentleman?
Yeah, so we're in negotiations with Luke, that fellow that lives in the greenhouse there. With respect to basically the southern half of that parcel that has the schoolhouse on it. Because
Right,
they're using it as a church or a gathering place of some kind. So we're working on that. The guy, I'm told yesterday, the guy got his insurance. I sent him the lease to sign, and I haven't heard from him yet today. But anyway, that has been in track more or less in parallel with this effort.
So that doesn't impact the property boundaries here for this lease?
No, not, we'll just lease them the north half of it,
Okay.
and that's actually a fairly neat dividing line.
Mhm.
So Luke will have the south half in his organization and boat check folks the north half of that. And, you know, whatever part of the road, that's platted street that maybe be included.
And Luke's been a good one to work with.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yep,
that's-
yep. He's always saying hi and stuff like that. So, and he started a schoolhouse. Yeah, so he has a bunch of kids now that are running around, which hopefully, you know,
Right on.
we're a little worried about mostly because there's, you know, it's a rattlesnake country and they like to play in some of the long grass. And so I'm kind of worried about the kids because of that.
You can always decontaminate it.
Right.
It's a hot water.
Yeah.
So when you talk about a long-term lease, what are you thinking?
I don't know what's in the agreement.
I don't think.
Well, and presently it's a 5-year agreement that you could be it's automatically renewed year to year unless some other conditions occur. But the concern, at least initially, the concern was that most granting organizations are gonna want long-term lease or ownership for the grantee, so that's what we were talking about, initially like 50 and 99-year terms. But I don't know if it sounds like maybe the planning piece of it has moved around a little bit, and so they're looking harder at the MDT parcel for the long-term installation, so I'm not really sure what they're after.
So I don't know, what does the agreement state right now, James?
It says 5 years with,
Yeah.
you know, ongoing renewals.
That would be,
I think what we're talking about with the Connex is if we could put the footers underneath to be able to raise that building up just a little bit. The doors are getting jacked up, that
Yeah.
whole thing's happening. Get that stabilized. It's obviously a temporary structure, the Connex. And then build like a pole-borne type of structure over top of it to protect it from the elements, create that shade for the building, as well as like a vestibule for the staff to sit under, to be able to see vehicles coming and then to be able to be quickly to jump up. If we could leave that there, potentially move the Connex out in the future and just have like that roofing structure over it for the staffs to still be under, if we're able to make all the MDT parcel
Yeah.
part work. Otherwise, we might have to be, if that doesn't materialize with the MDT parcel, we may still have to just be working out of a Connex trailer under a pole barn roof. For the
You know,
long term.
a lot of our leases start with 10 years, and
10 or 20?
yeah, and I don't
Yeah.
have a problem with.
let's go 50. I'll be gone by then.
I mean, don't we typically put in some kind of an opt-out clause?
Yes, 60 days, either party could ask to get out of 60 days. And the lease as written doesn't contemplate any rent, it contemplates basically insurance and maintenance, right? Mow the grass and keep the weeds and rattlesnakes down and bring kids as necessary.
Which we've been doing already.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. hold on earlier. It's nice when it gets hot.
I didn't realize that was a rattlesnake area there.
Yep. So our hot decontamination unit, we try to keep it moved around there because I'm also worried about, you know, in the wintertime if they're denning up underneath that shed.
Yeah.
And we have cameras on the Connex site that kind of looks out and protects the area from vandalism.
yeah, I didn't know it was manned 24 hours a day, that's great.
Yep, it's the only one in the state that has 24 operations because of how sensitive our area is. I know they did a pilot.
Travel at night,
Yeah, especially the haulers, you know, they're moving boats for people.
don't want to deal with the other traffic.
Yeah. Yep, sometimes they're slow nights, that's for sure, but you know, you never know what's trying to cross that in the middle of the night.
Yeah, we take protecting the resource very serious.
So would you be opposed to 20 years or?
Chelsea, what do you think?
Yeah, thanks, Rich. I think, the only, it's, we're hopefully, well, MDT has started the process to figure out whether whether that land is excess land and whether they can sell it to us or not. In which case, then we could put the permanent station there, and that would, if we could buy that, that would obviously count as site control. And I think that makes the most sense. And so if we don't, the reason we need site control is to receive funding. You have to have site control, which they define as ownership or long-term lease, which is like 50-year lease. So I don't think, and Whisper and Rich and Katie can correct me, I think we don't need site control at the Lake County, on the Lake County property. Because I don't think, at least for now, we're thinking that the permanent station wouldn't go there. But there are some improvements. So 20 years, I would think, would seem pretty good. At least to me, that would give a lot of surety, and this station we're gonna need it for a long time. So I think that would make sense. If, as Whisper said, if the things don't move forward with the MDT property, we may want to rethink and maybe touch base with you all again, to see whether it would be possible to do, to have a longer term lease on the Lake County property. But 20 years, I think, would be great, for starters, and something we could always revisit as needed.
Yeah, I'm sorry, dear, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's James Raymond. I don't know that we've met face to face. You probably
In
can't
the
see
back.
me on.
Yeah, I saw you.
Oh, he's here, sucker.
Yeah. When
Hey,
the
so I think
presentation
the
was
lease
up,
terms, I think the lease terms is written allow for, renegotiation in the future. Does, the background picture on the boat inspection station side change, or if it changes on this side, we can renegotiate later. If 20 years will get the job done, we can write it for 20 years with the option to renegotiate. And of course, the options for people for either side to get out on 60 days notice, that kind of thing.
yeah, on that one would be a bit, maybe James, we can talk about this more, but yeah, we might need to talk about that, just because I'm wondering what, if Lake County decided for some reason to get out within 60 days, that might I don't know, how would that work for you all, Whisper and Katie? Especially if you're gonna pour that.
Move stuff, yeah. I mean, that would just be the situation, I suppose.
Get
You
it.
would do it.
I mean, we can give it like a
January.
year, or, can't be done during the season or that kind
That
of,
would be
Yeah.
helpful.
that seems perfect.
Not in July.
Yeah. Well, July, 4th of July, all right, guys.
I get the news crew down here.
Well, we just start with a year. And that just,
Yeah, a year, yeah, then that should give everybody plenty of time without jerking the rug. I would think, I don't know if you could hear, Chelsea, we're just talking about making that term like a year rather than 60 days.
That
There's so
I
many
think would,
pieces of investment on the tribe's part, I'm sure my client doesn't want to screw that up.
I don't think so.
right, I think that sounds a bit more doable for, if Katie
no,
Whisper thinks that sounds good.
$1 a year, $1 a year.
Was there a discussion about that road? Is that a road in between the MDT parcel
Alleyway.
and Lake County?
Yeah, it's a platted alleyway,
Okay.
I suppose. I don't think it's a street.
so that would be included in the lease.
Yeah, we just put it in.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a discussion of whether it'd be worth our while to abandon that alleyway, but it seems like it would be easier just to include it in the lease agreement.
Yeah, and Gail, perhaps, and Chelsea, I mean, maybe abandonment was necessarily on the table at some future later point,
Right.
possibly, but, we just leave room for that, and if necessary, we can pull a trigger.
Yeah, that makes sense. That sounds good. I think you're right. For now, it's not necessary. We can just put it in the lease, but yeah, thinking ahead, that could make sense. So great.
Our work with MDT has been pretty well, like they provide water, they've sprayed down the parking lot, they've helped us. And then sometimes they're telling us they want us to move out, not the state, but the guys at the station. We want to put some stuff over there. It kind of waxes and wanes. And so we're hoping that somebody a little higher up the chain can make those directions and decisions.
So I guess, we'll keep working till we get a final draft, and, we can put it on the agenda as an action item, and
We can do a joint press release,
sure,
positive one.
yes, sir.
Rich, or you ladies, any more questions or anything else about the lease terms we want to talk about? I'll get tracking.
What do you ladies think?
I tried to give it a little look yesterday. Obviously, I'm not an attorney, so I'm just a
No, I
lay
think
person
You
reading
and
it.
Chelsea would.
Yeah,
I get, some
I
semi
think
permanent.
James,
Yeah.
sorry, I think
Yeah.
James, I only noticed some minor things in there like that I wanted to confirm, but the big questions I think were the lease term and the opt-out
Yeah.
clause. But I will look at it again and we can, yeah, just clear up any minor things, but otherwise I think it was looking in pretty good shape, so.
Don't be surprised to find typos.
Yeah. But
We could-
I did just want to say to the commissioners that, when we were talking to council about this, they were, very appreciative of the long-term cooperation of the Lake County Commissioners on letting the tribes use this place in the the recognition of the common threat, and the willingness to work together to protect against it is, great that we can come together and they're, aware of that and appreciative of that. And I also just say I was just on vacation in Michigan and was in a lake there and that was infested. And fortunately, the bottom of that lake is sandy. So, but every time there was any rock totally covered with zebra mussels that are just sharp and really unpleasant. So, and Flathead Lake is certainly not covered. It's not a sandy bottom, so it would just be totally covered if they came in there. So definitely worth. I mean, you all know.
There's some
But
lake shoes they say back there that you can't even walk on. There's so many.
Right, so sharp, yep. One of my, I guess Georgia's niece, she said, she was visiting there several years ago and there was a wedding going on. And they actually had to take a huge heavy equipment to scrape the shore and off for the wedding, because there were so many zebra and quagga mussels just attached to everything.
So it impacts everything.
Not good.
Yep. And since we're the headwaters of the Columbia River Basin, it just make it all the way down and everyone's electricity prices would go up, because the only way to get rid of them is to physically remove them from, every dam and or just blast them with high pressure is what they do in the Great Lakes area. And then, so a lot of maintenance.
Come right back.
Yep, come right back, yep. No way, was it 2 years ago? Up in Colorado, there's a small lake up in the mountains that they did have zebra and quagga mussels. I can't remember which lake it was. And that was the best hope, if they were able to eradicate it from that closed system, that there would be a way to get rid of them, but they failed to eradicate them. So currently there's not a way to get them out of the body of water once they are established. So that is scary.
Yeah.
You make some money if you find out how.
Without poisoning everything else.
Yeah. A dead lake.
That's what I really like about the hot water.
Right?
It's great.
No chemicals, just hot water.
Well, if we can get the final draft of the lease done this week, we can schedule it as a action item next week and be done.
Chelsea, I'll get you a revised draft based on this.
okay, great. And then I'll give. That sounds good. That sounds great, James, and I'll look that over and we can. Yeah, that sounds great. Get this wrapped up.
Well, it's an important service that we have, and county couldn't do it, state couldn't do it, so we're lucky to have the CSKT be able to do it.
There any news people here that can.
It's recorded.
It's
Yeah.
Watch it. Just play back.
I'm messing with you, Gail.
Can I say
When you're
one
having a
last
bad day.
thing? So when you're having a bad day. To maybe just keep in mind, and I don't know that things will play out like this, but that long-term station, there may be funding coming from Zinke's office in Congress. And if the MDT parcel does not work out whatsoever, is there something we can think about to maybe consider the Lake County parcel for a more permanent station if it doesn't work out with the other side? Like, we don't have to make an agreement, but just think in our minds that there may be a need for that cooperation in the future.
I thought the land swap idea was a pretty good idea.
Yeah, there may be exchange somewhere we could come up with that would work for
Maybe
both
mutually
governments.
beneficial.
I think that's,
I'd be able to look at anything, see what,
I guess one, we would really like to expand the Lake County Fairgrounds. And there's a couple tribal parcels there that are used for baseball diamonds.
I was looking at some swampland over.
Would that work for the mitigation, water?
Are you talking about in Ronan?
Yes,
yeah.
yeah,
That could be an option if we need it. I definitely think so.
yeah, cause I don't,
But that's between you and the council and.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, I think the potential would be there to remain used for baseball diamonds, but it could be expanded to
Have dual usage.
give us a little more area for the fairgrounds and
Who's running on the baseball diamonds?
It's a hot
Good
spot.
spot.
so you're aware that the county sold their portion of the MREC property to the city. So they're planning on moving the rodeo grounds out there to Mink Lane. They're leasing, city is leasing it to Pioneer Days Committee.
Where the current baseball fields are? Like the
Yes.
adult baseball field,
Yeah.
softball fields?
It'll be the same type of lease, it sounds like, that we have set up with PFI for the fairground out here, or something like that, so.
Have you heard about the meat processing facility? Is that still on the radar screen?
My name might sort of be on it, but I don't really know much about it. Just there to talk about bison. But as
You got
far as I
12 minutes.
know, they're still moving through the process and trying to make that happen. I think those funds have been secured and that they're trying to make that work out. But I have removed myself from those discussions because I'm a biologist, not a
Meat products.
agricultural person. So, yeah, I think it's still moving forward.
That's
but I
the
don't
last
know
I
the
heard.
status.
Okay, we will adjourn the hearing.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you guys for the
Thank
time.
you.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.